The government is facing calls to address the number of women behind bars, with a leading think tank arguing the current system is becoming increasingly expensive and ineffective. It says the numbers sentenced are growing at a rate faster than men, with most women jailed for often lesser offences. Melinda Cilento is the CEO with CEDA, the Committee for Economic Development of Australia, and she joins us now from Sydney. Great to have you on, Melinda. Let's talk firstly about this rate of incarceration, how it's growing faster for women and offer for lesser offences. What did you find?
Yeah, the rates of incarceration are really quite startling, to be honest. The growth of women in prison has been over 60% in the last decade, faster than men. It's not a gap that we want to be closing, quite frankly. And to put that into context as well, Australia is putting people in prison at faster rates than almost any other country in the OECD. That's in general. So the pace of incarceration for women is really significant. And often women are held on remand for longer periods than they would ultimately be sentenced for as well, you found? Yeah, we're seeing that a really high proportion of women are in remand. So they're either waiting to be sentenced or they're unsentenced. They are for lower level offences, and to give you one sort of example, in South Australia, 50% of women actually end up spending less than 30 days in prison, but even that amount of time, as you can imagine, is incredibly disruptive. And you talk about the cost of this as well. That's really where you've done a lot of work, looking at the economic cost and how we could offset that. Yeah, look, there is a lot of research around. We've pulled that research together. But really what we're finding, what you can see is that the cost of imprisonment now is running at over $5 billion a year. That's roughly $330 per prisoner per day. We estimate that if you actually could halve the incarceration rate for women, you would save around $300 million by 2030. Why have you looked at this just for women and not men? Look, we understand that there are genuine community concerns around crime and safe communities, but we think the evidence is there that the current approach isn't working. So we think focusing on women is really important. One, because they are being sentenced for lesser offences, so lower risk. We think the risk to the community is lower, and the cost of this at the moment is quite significant, not just to the individuals concerned, but of course to their families. So we think that we can build momentum for change, focusing on women where there is significant benefit, where we've got plenty of evidence in the report that shows the alternatives that can be implemented that work. And this is a way to start to sort of change the conversation. Yeah, it's interesting. And just finally, quickly, this is not often the bailiwick of CEDA actually to look at this sort of stuff. Is it? Why have you looked into this? Look, I think it isn't something that people might associate us with, but actually we think there's an incredible economic benefit in doing this. We're spending money that we can't afford to spend if it's not having good impact or good outcomes. More people are going back into prison. It's costing a lot of money. For women, the impacts are for them and their families are intergenerational. So there is an economic argument here. And quite frankly, in the current environment, we need to really focus on every dollar that we spend from a fiscal perspective, but we should be trying to get as many people working and participating and contributing both in our economy and our society. All right. Well, thanks so much for speaking to us about it this morning, Melinda. Thanks for your interest. Melinda Cilento there from CEDA.